First, to make my story make sense, I need to give some backstory. I come from an Irish family, the older generations of which are deeply religious. Anytime my great-grandmother saw one of her male descendants, be it a son, a grandson, or a great-grandson, she would always say, "My boys have the devil's eyes." One of the first memories I have of her is me sitting on her lap and her holding my face to look me in the eyes and say this. I always just figured it was because all the men in our family had eyes similar in shape and color, and that we had gotten it from my biological great-grandfather, who I never met or saw photos of since my great-grandma remarried after his death. Even in Grandma's old age, when she was battling Alzheimer's and could not remember her daughters or their names, she always recognized her boys, even if she did not know our names. With that all out of the way, I can tell you what we found now. My grandmother has passed away. We are keeping the house in the family and plan on keeping animals in the small field behind the house. That means we will be digging holes for fencing across the property. My grandfather and I are the ones doing most of the work, since we live the closest. This can be hard work, especially in the hills of West Virginia. After hours of working my digger, I hit something that made a hollow clanging noise. This wasn't a rock, and whatever it was, someone had buried it deep. It was also stopping any more progress, as the hole needed at least another foot or so. I picked up something to try to break through. A long, heavy piece of metal with a harsh wedge, and with my curiosity, full start digging around this and try to pry it loose. It comes eventually, and is now sitting lengthwise in this hole, so I lay on the ground to reach my arm down, almost to the shoulder, to try and get a grip on this and pull it out. After a few more minutes of struggling, out comes a long, skinny lockbox, maybe 6 inches in width and about a foot long. The small lock on it is rusted, and a good smack with the rock breaks it open. Inside are old photos. Nothing too spectacular. Just a few of my great-grandma, some of my grandpa, and I believe their siblings as kids. There was a bunch of little writings about what was happening when the picture was taken as well. There is one that sticks out though. It was lying face down in the box, with no writing on the back. But it was like it was calling to me. I figured it was just my curious nature, and I flipped it over. Pictured is my great-grandmother. I believe she was in a plush-looking high-back chair. A man stands on her left, one hand on the top of the chair, and the other on her shoulder, and on the other side of the chair is a black mist. It is vaguely in the shape of a man, but it is massive. If the man standing next to my great-grandmother is 6 feet tall, this thing would be 9. It gives off this aura of hate and anger, even through the picture. Its eyes are the worst part. Its eyes are such a striking green. It is like looking through me into my soul. I dropped the picture like it burned me, and whipped it across the ground a bit. It's not my proudest moment. At this point, my grandpa has made his way over to me and looks down at the photos. He gives me a mixed look of anger and fear. He crouches down, scoops up the picture and the lockbox, and carries it off, giving me a gruff, "Get back to it," before disappearing into the house. Still shaken up, I take a moment to collect myself before I do anything else. I don't want to keep digging without at least having my wits about me. After about 15 minutes, he comes back out and grabs me by the shoulders and takes a deep breath before saying, "Don't tell anybody about that box." His tone brokered no argument or question. I just numbly nodded my head. He gives me a slight smile before patting my shoulder and moving off again to keep working. I do the same, moving on to another posting site. That was about 2 weeks ago now, and I have had a terrible sense of being stalked and terrible nightmares. I keep waking up from dreams of being followed in the forest by something with glowing green eyes. I swear I see things out of the corner of my eye at home now, too. I walked past a storefront in town the other day and thought I saw something tall following just behind me and bent over to look down at me. Either I have lost my mind, or the thing in that picture has come back, and I really hope that I'm just crazy. This is a true story that happened to me. It is honestly bone-chilling. Anyways, this is the story of the man in my closet. I think I just call it a man because I do not want to believe it was anything else. Well, I guess let me explain. Ever since I was younger, I hated the closet. I am not sure why, but it was just an irrational fear of mine. In my old house, I was convinced there was some thing, or I guess the so-called man, in my closet. I was 12 at the time. I often heard scratching, knocking, and tapping in my closet, but after a while, I just got used to it and tried my best to ignore it. At the time, I had a loft bed. If you do not know what that is, it is basically a bunk bed without the bottom bunk. Instead, the bed frame sits on a dresser and a desk. You must climb a ladder to get up to it. When you first walk into my room, there is a closet by the right corner, and once you walk in, if you look to your left, there is a small TV. Across from the TV was my bed. Sorry if this is a poor description, but my bed was on the front wall that you see when you walk into the room on the left corner. So the side of my bed was across from the TV going the long way facing the closet. So when I climbed up the ladder, my feet would be facing the closet, and my head would be near the window on the left wall in between the bed and the TV. I hope that made sense. My small TV was kind of like a touchscreen TV. In the bottom right-hand corner of the TV there was an on and off button, and a volume button that you needed to tap to turn it off and on. There was no remote, so I would have to climb down and turn it on and off, or to adjust the volume by touching the buttons. Now my TV makes a very distinctive sound. When you turn it on or turn it off, it makes a little doo-doo-oo, high-pitched kind of noise. Well, one night, I went up to bed late. I was having some trouble falling asleep, but once I did, something weird happened. I do not remember what time it was exactly, but in my half-asleep state, I heard my TV turn on. I turned over to my side and looked at my TV. Its blue light was illuminating my room, and there was no one there. I immediately heard footsteps, so I reached for my glasses that were sitting on my windowsill. Now these were not your ordinary footsteps. I had hardwood floors, and it was a distinct creaking sound when you walk over them because of your body weight. These were just light, quick steps running out of my room. When I put my glasses on, I looked at the doorway. There was a tall, dark, lengthy figure standing there looking at me. Or I think it was, because it did not have a face or eyes that I could discern. It was just fuzzy looking. My heart started pounding. I chucked my pillow at it, and I wanted to cry. I saw the figure walk into the closet as it closed the door slowly. I swear I heard a creepy, raspy voice in my left ear. Look at me. I swear to God this was something straight out of a horror film. I turned so fast my head spun. There was nothing there. Suddenly the closet door slammed the rest of the way shut. I sat there mortified, and just stared at the closet crying. After a few hours, I guess I ended up falling asleep. I do not remember much after that. This was about 2 years ago. I moved into a new house, and what I did immediately was take my closet doors off their hinges. I am 14 now, and they, or that so-called man, has never come back, and I hope they never do.